have the honor of introducing the speakers throughout the day, and it's an incredible group of folks that have come together here to help educate all of us on RPS best practices, both here, I guess, well, we don't have a lot going on yet in our state. Hopefully we'll get there, but also at the national level. As a reminder, the speakers do need to stand behind this stand, not sit, behind the podium here, and so that the TVs, cameras can record all of your wonderful faces and also catch your voices on the microphone. So our first speaker for today is Tommy Boroughs, and Tommy is with the law firm Holland & Knight, and we will excuse him for his lawyerish background because he also is a wonderful expert on the renewable energy domain as well. Tommy, his practice in law is focused on the area of zoning and land use regulatory matters, and together with real estate development, acquisition, and sales. He also currently serves as the co-chair of the firm's land use team. In addition, Mr. Boroughs served as the chair of the Florida Energy Commission from 2006 to 2008, and he served on the board of the Orlando Utilities Commission from 2001 through 2008. He also chaired the American Public Power Association's Policymakers Council in 2005 and 2006, and he served as a member of the board of directors of that association as well. In December of, lost my place here, sorry, December 2005, former Governor Jeb Bush appointed Mr. Boroughs to the Florida Energy Forum, and in 2007, Florida Governor Charlie Crist appointed Mr. Boroughs to the Governor's Energy and Climate Action Team. Mr. Boroughs was also voted the 2006 Florida Municipal Electric Association Member of the Year. So as you can see, in addition to his side job as a lawyer, he's very, very well entrenched in alternative energy policy. And so with that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Boroughs to open our day and to give us the broad scope on the State of the Union of RPS.
Yeah, technical expert has got to set up the technically challenged one for his presentation here. Thanks, Krista. Well, good morning, everybody. It's great to be here. I hope this is one of the last of the cold mornings we're going to have this year. At least I got my fingers crossed. After my presentation, I'll leave plenty of time for questions and comment discussion if we want to do that. Before I get started with the RPS, or the history and the present status, the RPS policy in Florida, let's make sure we're all on the, whoops, that was not smart. Let's make sure we're all on the same page in terms of a definition of renewable portfolio standard, okay? A renewable portfolio standard is a requirement that power generating utilities produce more energy from renewable sources. Okay. It generally establishes a minimum level of electricity sales that must come from renewable generation by a specific date, like a certain percent by this date, certain percent by another date. Okay. Why do we have one? What are the justifications for having a renewable portfolio standard? All right. First, I'm sorry, I'm still on the definition of renewable energy. Did I do something wrong? Yeah, no, I'm still on the definition for renewable energy now. Sorry, I got ahead of where I am in my outline. But renewable energy means energy produced from a method that uses one or more of the following sources of following fuels or energy sources: biomass, solar energy, geothermal energy, wind energy, ocean energy, hydroelectric energy. Basically, renewable energy is energy from a source that continually replenishes itself. Okay, what's the definition to biomass? Just told you about biomass. Well, Florida, this is a statutory definition of biomass in Florida. It's very broad, as you can see, and it covers not only everything from agricultural products to agricultural waste, including plant and animal, but it also covers such things as municipal solid waste and urban wood waste. Now, I get to the reasons for why we have an RPS approach. One reason is to reduce the carbon emissions, okay, from electrical generation to renewable sources, which generate or emit less carbon, okay. but also renewable energy emits less other emittents that which are more generally accepted as or called or referred to as pollutants, such as sulfur dioxide, nitrous oxides, and mercury. Also, and this is one of my favorites, it reduces dependence upon foreign fossil fuel sources. Okay? In Florida, that's especially important because in Florida we import 98% of the fuel for our energy. Just think of it, folks. 98% of the fuel for our energy in Florida is imported. We ship all that money out of our state. Okay. Now, why is if I can get to my next one here, it's not shifting here, Kirsty. What am I doing here wrong? I hit next. Okay. All right. That ought to work. All right. Now, why is an RPS especially important to Florida? I've already told you one reason about we import all of our energy. But Florida has a vast potential for renewable energy. Florida could be literally the Saudi Arabia of biomass. Look at what we've got just from our so-called opportunity fuels, just from our waste fuels. We've got timber waste, agriculture waste, lawn clippings, landfill waste, animal waste, food processing waste, and we can grow crops. We've got the land, we've got the climate, we've got the rainfall. In addition, we've got good solar. We've got good potential from the Gulf Stream that whips around Florida off the southeast coast is the fastest moving body of water around the continental United States. And we've got a potential of offshore wind. Notice I don't mention onshore wind because it's basically just shore wind, at least with the technology today. And people on the coast just in our country, just in our state, just don't want to see turbines or windmills, blocking their view of the ocean. The Europeans a little bit different. They think of things differently. I know a lot of you have been to Europe and you've seen all these turbines. Europeans think more of the common good in a certain sense. Americans, we tend, and I speak in exaggerations, and I'll acknowledge that, but Americans tend to think more of our individual rights. We don't want our view of the ocean, to be blocked by a turbine or a windmill. So it's going to be tougher to have anything other than offshore wind, and I list that as a potential because that's out there. You can do it. You can do it now. It's very expensive to do it. The technology we have now. Eventually, though, we'll probably do better than that. Okay. Now I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk for a minute about the history of an RPS policy in Florida. In 2006, the Florida legislature created an entity called the Florida Energy Commission. Okay. There were 9 of us, appointed by the President of the Florida Senate and the Speaker of the Florida House. And the purpose of the commission was to advise the Florida legislature on a future energy policy for the state of Florida. Okay. I served as chairman. We had, in addition to the nine commission members, we had 4 advisory groups. Each of our 4 advisory groups were chaired by a member of the commission, but they were staffed by as many as 15 or 20 members of the public. Members of the public representing all the various vested interest groups that had vested interest in a Florida renewable policy. Utilities, okay, customers, businesses, government, environmentalists, academia. And at the end of that year, we had hearings all over Florida, not just our full commission, but also the 4 advisory groups. At the end of that year, we came up with a set of recommendations. I've got it here with me. It's about the same size of the book as that Cleantech study that all of you have there that you're given when you walked in. That Orange County did a Cleantech study, that green book, about that size. And that was one volume. Volume 2 is more specific with the actual the language of the specific legislation we wanted. But we made 85 separate recommendations to the Florida legislature in our December 31, 2007 report. That would be the backbone of the beginning of an energy policy for the future of Florida. One of our 4 advisory groups I've told you about was focused on renewable energy, and we had several recommendations in the renewable energy area. One of them, well, just give you an example. We recommended the legislature direct the Public Service Commission to study renewable energy in Florida, to look at all the various sources, and after that study to recommend a renewable, and you'll come up with a rule, okay, for renewable energy policy for the state of Florida. Okay, it was our recommendation number 40, and that was it, okay. Come up with an RPS for the state of Florida. Well, the 2008 legislature, the Senate did something, the House did nothing. What did the Senate do? This is the bill the Senate passed, okay? The Senate said, okay, Commission, Public Service Commission, adopt rules for a renewable portfolio standard, okay? And in doing that, you know, consult with DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, the Florida Energy and Climate Commission, and have a report, have a draft rule for consideration of the legislature by February 1, 2009. All right. Let's look at some of the component parts. I keep hitting this thing, and I got to redo it here. Let's look at some of the component parts of that record. Let me back up just a minute. So the Public Service Commission hired a consulting firm called Navigant Consulting, one of the top consulting firms in the country, to do the study. Okay. And I've got some excerpts here of the docket of a public meeting of the Florida Public Service Commission of December 31, 2008, at which Navigant made the summary. They'd already published their report, and the staff had already published its recommendations. But these are some excerpts, okay, from the recommendations of Navigant. Okay, here's what Navigant said.